buying movie tickets,
Economics.
going to restaurants.
Big question is the GBA going to do exactly the same
Place
thing?
cash.
30 years ago,
No,
you become another Ronald Lam.
No. I consciously chose to join Cathay. Actually, after I graduated in '94, I came back to Hong Kong and I worked in an investment bank for 2 years. And it turned out it was not a career I was enjoying at that time. So I switched to a very different field, which is Cathay Pacific in the aviation industry. So I think it's because of those 2 years, I've stuck around with Cathay for such long because I make a very conscious decision to switch at that time. And some of my friends were laughing at me, right? I was switching from the most profitable industry to the least profitable, I would say. But I really enjoy the last 28 years with Cathay. I really feel a sense of purpose to be able to serve people, whether it's our own people in the team or our customers. And now in this position, I can directly serve Hong Kong as well. So yeah, I feel very fulfilled.
Great.
Never regret that decision.
Wonderful. Even though you probably took a very big pay cut from joining from you said that the most profitable industry.
Yeah, a little bit of pay cut at that time. Yeah.
But you, in return, you gain more than what the dollar and cents.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
But definitely, in the last couple of years, I think Cathay did go through probably the most challenging times in its 75 years history.
Yeah. Yes.
With COVID and right after the social incident of Hong Kong, still no time recovery, and then COVID comes in.
Yes.
Was it a very painful journey of Cathay and yourself?
Yeah, it was. Well, Cathay was formed in 1946. So in 2 years' time, we're going to turn 80 years old. So we were born after World War II. And since then, actually the 3 years of pandemic was our toughest time in our history, for sure. And it was a crisis about survival. And the context, I think all of you have been in Hong Kong during that time, was that our destiny was no longer at our hands. We were at the mercy of Hong Kong government's policy. And looking back, Hong Kong government has chosen a very extreme path when you look back when it comes to pandemic measures. And what happened to us, actually, you will imagine it was a demand issue. People were not traveling, and therefore we are suffering. But in the extreme case of us based in Hong Kong, actually, we had a supply issue during the pandemic because Hong Kong had a very unique quarantine measures for flying crew. In many other cities, like Singapore, that we like to compare with, throughout the pandemic, they never had any restrictions on pilots and cabin crew movement. So the airlines were able to mount flights, all right, without any constraint, at least on the supply side. But for Cathay in Hong Kong, Hong Kong government has chosen to adopt a very stringent measure. So all the pilots and cabin crew, every time after they fly back to Hong Kong, they were subject to quarantine. So imagine you do a turnaround flight to Tokyo and then come back the same day, then you're subject to 7 days of quarantine. So there's no way we could have operated. So we have to call for volunteers of crew that after Tokyo, they would stay in a hotel without coming out to the society, and they would do so-called closed loop for like 3 weeks without seeing anyone. And we have to count on volunteers, right? Because we cannot force people to do that. And as a result, we were only able to run less than 5% of flights at any time. Whereas Singapore Airlines, for example, throughout the pandemic, they were able to keep at least 30% of their flights. So we could have run 30% as well based on the demand during the pandemic, but we couldn't because of the crew restrictions that was pretty unique in Hong Kong. So for a long time, we were very low So we really started low after the pandemic in terms of our rebuild journey. And also Hong Kong started late, right? For other places like Singapore, the pandemic was for only 2 years. But for Hong Kong, it was for 3 years, right? So therefore, the whole pandemic lasted longer for us than other airlines in the world. So we started low, we started late. And if we didn't have the support, on the other hand, from our shareholders and Hong Kong government, we wouldn't have survived, right? No airlines can have only less than 5% flights and survive 3 years. It's just physically not possible. But well, somehow we make it. I didn't know how we make it, but we did it day by day. We took a lot of measures, and yeah, here we are. Yeah.
Excellent. You mentioned about the volunteers. I guess in the initial stage, it's very difficult to get even they have the heart, they have the families to take care of. So the number of volunteers probably will be very, very limited.
Yes, we have a good percentage, but I mean, it's not 100%, of course. I mean, some people have, well, all of them have family, right? To be away from your family without any contact physically, right, for 3 weeks is not a deal that any normal person will be able to sustain, I would say. And also, it's really extreme, right? At that time, for some of our crew, some of the clinics or hospital, if they know they are flying crew, they would not allow them to visit, or even their family members. So I think Hong Kong has gone to that sort of extreme, right? So I really see our crew during those 3 years as our heroes, right? They really suffer a lot to keep Hong Kong at least going, right? However few flights we have kept the city going, and we are running a lot of cargo flights to keep the supplies like vaccines coming in, masks to come in, and all the supplies to come in under really harsh operating conditions.
Okay, I understand Cathay has not yet back to the 100% capacity than scheduled service as of now. And the latest, I think, reported will be March next year. Would that be a plan that is very firm?
Well, actually, we've made a recent announcement. We'll be back to 100% of our pre-pandemic flight frequency from Jan 2025. So as of next month, we will be 100% in terms of flight frequency. And this is between Cathay Pacific and HK Express. So now we have 2 passenger airlines under the Cathay Group compared to Cathay Pacific and Cathay Dragon before the pandemic. And we decided to close down Cathay Dragon. So from a like-to-like comparison, from next month onward, we'll be back to 100%. Meaning that 3 years of pandemic, it took us 2 years to rebuild. And actually, we were much faster than many other airlines. Many other airlines, despite starting earlier, they haven't been back to 100% yet. So it took us 2 years. Although many people wanted us to be much faster, but it's not like a flipping a switch to get back to 100%. So 2 years by any standard compared to other airlines actually is already very quick. Remembering we only started to rebuild early last year, so it's a fantastic achievement. The critical part is to get back in terms of people resources. So we had to recruit more than 5,000 people last year, and this year we have recruited more than 7,000 people. And then by this month, we are getting back to 30,000 strength as a group. So it's a gigantic task, right? In our history, probably every year we probably recruit 1,000 something people. So to have recruited 5,000 last year and 7,000 this year is just a huge challenge. We on average run a recruitment show twice in a week somewhere in the world. Recruitment alone is not enough, also training. Like our cabin crew, this year we have around 4,000 to 5,000 new cabin crew, and they all need to be trained from a service angle, from a safety angle. And we were never set up to train such many people in Hong Kong, so we had to go to other places like the Middle East to have our cabin crew trained from a safety angle because you need certain certification to be able to go through those kind of training. So I would say, yeah, all in all, I'm so proud of my team. Cathay has a very strong can-do spirit. If I throw them a challenge, they get it done. So I think it's really worth celebrating that, the fact that we're getting back to 100% so quickly. Only from next month, we'll be back to 100%. So it hasn't been easy, but we've done it.
Yeah, in particular, the loans and the arrangement to the government, the 260 million?
195.
195,
yeah,
and then you
yeah.
fully pay back
Yeah.
in
Yes.
a very admirable way. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Looking back, in our rebuild, right, we have a few things we need to do from last year till this year. First is to rebuild the flights, as I mentioned, and to rebuild the flights, we have to rebuild the workforce, is the people side. But we also need to rebuild our financial because our balance sheet was weakened a lot, right? We have a huge debt that we owe it to the Hong Kong government. They supported us through in the form of investment into Cathay Group, through the form of preference share, 19.5 billion worth of preference share, which we have to repay, both the principal as well as with dividend or the interest, right? So I'm so glad that these 2 years our cash flow has improved a lot. And last year we made a profit of 9.8 billion, which has allowed us to repay quite quickly. And then this year we have repaid. So now the 19.5 billion has been fully repaid back to the government with 4 billion worth of interest. So according to Paul Chan, the financial secretary, he said, well, actually it's a good deal, even for the government. And many people would say, oh, you get bailed out by the government, which is not true. Unlike many governments worldwide, they actually gave free money to the airlines without having to pay back anything, the principal and interest. But in the case of Hong Kong, because we are a commercially run company, we're not government owned. So the government helped us, but in an arm's length way. So they did it in the form of investment. So we're so glad that within 2 years we paid back with a good return for them. Yeah.
I think that's a very excellent, impressive result of that, turning the airline around, even though not yet up to 100% capacity, you managed to both passenger and the freight side have done fantastically well. So the strategy now is to, as quickly as possible, within obviously the safety measures, standard and all that, back to 100% capacity. But we all know that consumer behavior changed over the COVID time.
Yeah.
How does that impact on Cathay's strategy moving forward?
Well, during COVID, many people said, okay, after COVID, people are going to turn to Zoom and Teams, and not many people will be traveling again for business. And leisure side, well, people will stay home. They are afraid of traveling. At that point, I think many people were worried that whether the aviation industry will be able to recover. But all these turn out to be not true. I'm not seeing any of that structural change. The corporates, the business travelers, they are still traveling as frequently as before. Zoom, Teams, and everything have not replaced human touch. I've seen a lot of frequent travelers returning as usual. Leisure has returned. Especially last year, there's a lot of revenge travel, right? People haven't traveled for a long time. So this year has normalized. But from a leisure traveling angle, I would say, yeah, it has returned to normal in terms of demand, if not more than before, because people really treasure the opportunity to be able to travel than before. And also, what I've observed is that when people travel for leisure, now they are a bit more generous than before. More people are willing to travel on premium economy or even on business class when they fly for leisure travel. So I think all these are, from a demand side, I think we are seeing robust demand after the pandemic, which is why we we have been able to rebuild our financials that quickly. Yeah.
That's very good, interesting to note. And all industries are talking about how to make use of technology that help them to boost productivity. And as Presidency said, new quality productivity, the forces to also how is Cathay taking on the technological improvements
Sure.
into the strategies that you have?
Sure. Well, there are actually two areas, probably applies to all companies, that will future-proof our business or your business. One is to be a leader in digital. The other one is to be a leader in sustainability. I think those two are the future-proof capabilities. So therefore, in the Cathay strategy, it is clearly written that these two areas, we really want to be industry leading when it comes to digital as well as sustainability. So your question is about the first, which is digital leadership. We have been doing a lot over the past 5 years in terms of investing on our digital culture and capability. And I would say we have made great progress. I think we are probably, from an IT and digital angle, we are probably one of the biggest setup, as well as probably pretty advanced. I mean, it's recognized by the Hong Kong society that we are leading. So what we have done is we've totally changed our, well, we got 3 layers of strategy, if I may go into a little bit of detail. The bottom layer is the IT enablement. So we've totally changed our IT landscape. One example is that now more than 90% of our applications are now on the clouds already, whether it's private cloud or public cloud. So making us really, really agile, right? We can ramp up, ramp down, and we can change them very easily. So, and many companies are now looking for our experience to move to that journey, because that is the bottom layer. If you don't modernize your IT infrastructure, then it's really hard to digitize. Cybersecurity, we've learned a hard lesson. I think many of you remember we have a major data breach in 2018. But since then, we have done a lot. We have moved the maturity curve of cybersecurity from maybe 2 point something, now is exceeding 4 out of 5. So I think we are in a good position, but we're never complacent. The second layer is our digital enablement layer, where we have spent so much time to reorganize our data. We create different data hubs by customers, by our planes, by our employees, et cetera, et cetera. So we've spent a lot of time to reorganize our data. And now we unleash the data power to our business unit. We have data champion in each BU. They know how to use those data to do analytics, et cetera, et cetera. And we have been big in adopting AI as well. So we have a large number of use cases we've been applying AI. One example probably you can relate to, we are the first company in Hong Kong to have widely adopted Microsoft Copilot in our work. So now I think close to 1,000 people is licensed with Copilot. So they can reply to emails. I sometimes write my speech using Copilot to help. Things like that, right? Generate reports and all that. We have AI in other operational applications, like chatbot in our customer care center. We are working with Google using generation AI to improve our chatbot in serving our customers. We are using AI to model the operations of the Three-Runway system to see, right, how it would change aircraft towing time, for example. Right? So there's a large degree of application of data and AI in our company. And then the third layer is the BU, right? We cannot just rely on IT and digital department. We have to count on each of the BU being digital native. So we have a lot of education training for our leaders, managers, and teams, right, in the BUs to help them understand and then help them to make use of those data analytics as well as AI technology to improve their operation. So all in all, I would say our digital maturity, which we constantly assess, has also moved along the curve. If a scale of 5, we were probably at maybe 2 point something 5 years ago. Now we are touching 4 in terms of digital maturity, according to external benchmark. So yeah, I think I'm pretty pleased with the progress. But it's a never-ending thing, I would say.
But with that, really the great improvement in overall the 3 layers, is Cathay really the leader in digital platforms on the aviation industry?
I would say probably we are among the leaders, but it can be better because the aviation industry in general, right, I think still have a long way to go compared to some other industry when it comes to digital. But within the aviation industry, I believe we are one of the leading ones. But I think we should look beyond aviation when it comes to digital. We should look for other aspiration from other industry. And we do work with the tech giants like Amazon, Tencent, Alibaba, etc. Amazon, right, a lot to get the latest idea, Google. We also work with the startup community to get ideas. In fact, every year we run what we call Cathay Hackathon. We gather the young people from universities on a 24-hour basis. We give them some business problem, and then they are locked up for 24 hours, and then they create mobile apps, programs to solve that problem. At the end of that, they do a pitching to the panel about their application. And then some of them ended up as real business application for us at the end, right? So that's how we cultivate. And this event is getting bigger and bigger. Every year there are like 5,000 to 6,000 people applying to get into Cathay Hackathon. And this year we've expanded it to cover the Greater Bay Area. So we got participants from Shenzhen, Zhuhai, etc. So it's getting bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Wonderful to know. You mentioned about 2 leadership of Cathay. One is digital, the other one is ESF. The ESG was ESF.
Yeah.
Our friend over there.
Sustainability.
Sustainability.
Yeah.
So SAF been talked a lot. Is Cathay really into making the world better with
Yes,
less carbon and all that?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, we want to be a leader in sustainability in the aviation industry, right? But some background first, right? For decarbonization in aviation is hard. Unlike cars, right? We got electric cars and etc. But for planes, electric planes would not go anywhere, right? You might have a electric plane air taxi, right? That can maybe transport 2 people from Hong Kong Island to Kowloon. That's it, right? But if you're talking about the kind of flying we do, right? Flying a few hundred people for a few hours to 15, 16 hours, electric plane, probably in our generation, would not be able to achieve that. I think all the OEMs, they have confirmed that. In fact, I was in Airbus last week in Toulouse, right, to visit them. And then their team told me that there's a joke, right? Their engineers told them that, okay, you can actually make A320 based on electricity to work, but you have to fill the whole plane with batteries, and then you cannot carry any passenger, any cargo, and the plane will fly for 20 minutes. So that means it's just not possible. And then the next for aviation is hydrogen. But hydrogen, there's a potential, and Airbus has mentioned that they aim to have a A320 type hydrogen aircraft carrying up to 200 people to be available from 2035. But still a long way, and even so, it's only for narrow-body aircraft. It's not going to be flying to London, to New York, right? We'll be able to apply hydrogen. So therefore, for aviation to decarbonize, the only practical way at the moment is to change your fuel to what we so-called SAF, which is Sustainable Aviation Fuel. Sustainable aviation fuel basically is a new form of fuel that is chemically the same as jet fuel, but they were made from biomass, waste oil, or in future we can turn hydrogen into SAF. And with SAF, the emission will be up to 80% lower compared to traditional jet fuel. And that's our only hope in this generation to decarbonize aviation. And we've been working hard on SAF, but unfortunately right now SAF supply is very little, and then the price is 3 to 4 times more expensive per unit compared to traditional jet fuel. A bit like the electric vehicle, right? When it started, it's all very expensive and the supply is not there. But I believe it will improve over time. It will take time to scale up, and we need all stakeholders, including the government, to step in the initial phase to scale it up. So I'm so glad Hong Kong government mentioned, I think John Lee has mentioned that in 2025 they will set a target for SAF usage. Singapore has already set some targets, by the way, and Hong Kong is a little bit behind. So I really look forward to Hong Kong government taking the lead on this front. But from an airline angle, we've been doing a lot worldwide, whether it's with in the US, in Europe, in Chinese mainland, we're doing a lot of partnership. We are doing some investments in some startup that specialize in SAF, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we try to be a leader, but it's not easy, but we're very determined. And we've set a target that by 2030, in Cathay Pacific planes, we will use at least 10% SAF. And we were one of the first Asian carriers to have announced that kind of target. Yeah.
Good to know. So looking in the future, other than SAF, obviously the opening of the third runway, which we did a marathon on the 17th November.
Well, not quite a marathon, 2K.
2K. But to me, it's a marathon already.
Okay.
So that's the 2K run at the third runway is actually turning a page of Hong Kong
Yeah.
aviation industry from the infrastructural standpoint.
Yes.
Would that be a welcoming gift to Cathay?
Yes, definitely. As you know, before the pandemic, the airport in Hong Kong was already full, meaning that we cannot add more flights easily, right? Unless you add a flight 3 a.m. In the middle of the night. There's no more slots, basically. So for us to further grow, we have to have a third runway. So we are so pleased that the three-runway system, so-called, is now open. It was open on the 28th of November, just a few weeks back. So to us, we really welcome this because in order for Hong Kong to thrive as an international aviation hub, we need more capacity. Guangzhou is building their fourth and fifth runway. Shenzhen is having their third runway, so Hong Kong cannot fall behind. So we need the third runway. But I must say, I mean, from a business angle, we also need to look at the risk side. It will mean more competition for us. So how do we better compete in the new era is also realistically something we have to look at. But on balance, we see it as an opportunity more so than a threat from our angle.
So I understand that Cathay also makes some big investment recently. Is it in corresponding to the opening of the third runway?
Yes. So last year, when we came out from the pandemic, apart from we built, another parallel theme we've been pursuing is invest. Because in the aviation industry, the investment cycle is very long. To get a new plane, it will take 2 to 3 years lead time at least. To retrofit a cabin, it will take 2 to 3 years as well, because there's so many supply chain issue and certification required. So we cannot just invest now after the three-runway system is open. We have to be ahead of time. Therefore, when we started last year after the pandemic, we have been doing a lot of work to invest for the future. And now, after 2 years, actually our investment decisions, commitment, have exceeded 100 billion Hong Kong dollar already for the future, mainly in buying new generation aircraft, more than 100 of them, investment on our cabins, new business class product, premium economy, first class, etc. And as well as new lounges on the ground, which we are quite famous for. So 100 billion. The three-runway system construction was worth 140 billion, lasted for 8 years. But we're going to invest because of that another 100 billion into our airlines capability for the next 7 years.
That's really good to know, not only for the Hong Kong economy, but supporting the continuation of the sustaining the growth of Hong Kong as an international aviation hub.
Yeah.
I think that is very important.
Yes.
No doubt about it. I know dear to your heart is about the culture of the company.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the DNA of the success of many companies, also the failure of many companies.
Yeah.
So over this almost 3 decades of Cathay journey, you must have seen some changes to it. So what is the latest cultural adaptations to the original Cathay?
Sure. Okay. Well, maybe I share a little bit my leadership philosophy, if you like. We spoke about the strategy, the financial, etc., etc. Those are important, but as a CEO, I believe, to me, there are 2 things that are the most important that I can influence as a CEO. The first one is brand. The second is culture. And the 2 are related. And to me, they are the 2 sides of the same coin. Brand is how Cathay represent ourselves to the external world, right? And then culture is how we conduct ourselves internally. And the 2 would need to be congruent, have to be the same, right? So I have done a lot in the last few years on our brand and culture. And I always tell my team, right, to advance our brand and culture, we need both substance, right? We need to make material change in our brand and culture. But we also need a lot of storytelling, both externally and internally. I would say in the past, Cathay was better with substance. We like doing things and then keep our heads down and then feel good about it internally. But we are not so good with storytelling. And now my team, I would say, have upped our game on storytelling by a lot. I'm not saying that our story should exceed our substance, right? We're not exaggerating. But our story needs to be representing our substance so that it's congruent externally and internally. And therefore, I spend a lot of time doing the storytelling apart from the substance. I roughly spend maybe 1/3 of my time doing storytelling, engagement with external world and internal world, which is a lot of time. So I'm constantly going out, speaking to people, seeing the media, coming to fireside chat like this one, and then internally I spend a lot of time to engage our people. So I think those are the few things we've been doing. Specifically on culture, the first step we have done is to define it, right? What sort of culture we want. Because culture to me can be defined. It's not something that is so abstract. So with my executive team and listening to our people, we've now clearly defined our Cathay culture on paper, right? Around 3 values: thoughtful, progressive, can do. And then under each value, we have 3 guiding principles each. So altogether, we have 9 guiding principles that are very clearly articulating what are the culture and behavior we're expecting. For example, one example I can give is that one of the guiding principles we said is, under progressive, is we are forward-looking, encouraging experiment and learning. Those precise wording is really important because as an almost 80 years old organization, we tend to be conservative. We are not that innovative and we are so afraid of change. But this is the culture we are trying to turn around. We encourage experiment and we encourage learning. So we encourage people to share their lessons learned, right? Sometimes we make mistakes, we have failure, but it's fine as long as we learn from it. And we encourage experiment. If you're not sure, rather than do nothing, right, that will be the fallback position in the past. Try it, right? Try it in a small scale, controllable, control the damage, right? Small scale in an agile way, right? The trial, the experiment will tell you something. If it's successful, you make it bigger. If it's not so successful, capture the learning and then try something else, right? So I'm seeing more of that now, although we're not quite there yet, to be honest. But that's one example, right? How we drive cultural change. Define it, and then tell your people, and then encourage them, right? Reinforce, encourage them, right? Another weakness in our culture, which is now defined in one of our 9 guiding principles to address it, is that we tend to micromanage. So the managers like to know everything, right? They would make orders, but that's not how it works in the modern world, right? We need to trust and empower our people, especially the young people, right? They don't want to be told what to do. They want to be empowered. So one of our guiding principles under can do is that we trust and empower our people. So we encourage our leaders and managers, tell your team what you want to see as an outcome. You focus on the what, but let them figure out the how, right? But in the past, the managers will define the what and then tell them how as well, right? But now we tend to say, well, this is the outcome we want to achieve. Let the team figure it out, because chances are they will be better than the managers in finding ways to achieve the goal, if you are clear about your goal, right? So I think those are the actual cultural change we are trying to make. But again, it's a never-ending battle. But with clarity, I think that helps a lot. So I would encourage, if you believe in a company culture is the most important thing for a company, define it first. If you don't define it, you can't change it. And then once defined, then just pursue it, right? Keep telling about story about them, encourage people to show behavior that is in line with your defined culture.
Fantastic. When Ronald talked about the substance and the storytelling, I can't stop not thinking about Hong Kong. We've got very good substance, uniqueness, but it seems that our storytelling capability has yet to be getting to a standard that's not surpassing the substance, as Ronald said, but at least the storytelling is as good as the substance that we have.
Yeah,
of Hong Kong.
I would agree.
So,
I think Hong Kong, we have a story issue.
Yeah.
We have a substance issue in some areas, but we also need to improve our story. Yeah, I think definitely. I think all of us need to tell a better story.
As a voice of business, we
yeah.
will write to the chief executive, put forward
Sure.
this substance and storytelling.
I give you one
journey.
small example, right, in our cafe context. It's about dining, right, in-flight dining in particular. And we have done a lot of insights work 2 years ago. And then the finding is that, okay, people like to compare us with Singapore Airlines, right? And people always tell, oh, their food is actually much better than ours, which I don't believe so, right? But let's look at the insights. We will go out to the market and ask people. And what happens is that our scores are quite close. But we look closer is that for SQ, for people who have traveled on SQ before, when they are asked to rate SQ's food, they would rate lower than people who have not traveled on SQ. So SQ has been doing a great job in storytelling. So for people who have actually not tasted their food, they perceive their food as better. For actually people who have traveled on them, taste their food, the score is lower. For Cathay, it's the complete opposite. For people who have traveled on us and tasted our dining experience, they rate higher. For people who have not traveled on us, they rate lower. And if we put the average score together, we are actually in par, at least, with SQ. That means, right, when it comes to dining experience, Of course, we need to improve on the substance, no doubt, right? There's still a lot of room to improvement, and we've been doing a lot of actual improvement to improve the substance by investing more money, by partnering with famous restaurant, blah, blah, blah. But we also need to improve on storytelling. Last night, I was with my team in a private kitchen. The food was fantastic, but it was made even greater because the chef, each course, he would tell a story, right, about the ingredient, where it's come from, and what is so special about this sauce. It just elevated the experience, right? So it just shows that substance and story has to come hand in hand in anything we do, actually, I would say, yeah.
Thank you. With that, I think there may be some question from the floor. Yes, Calvin. Coming.
There you go. Yeah, thank you so much, Ronald, for the sharing, and Uncle Patrick for the excellent moderation as usual. My name is Kelvin, so I run a Gen AI personalized commerce company, long-term Cathay Marco Polo member, very loyal,
Thank you.
and for like 18 years. And I just came back from San Francisco too, and I love the lounge and everything. And yeah, it's like a kind of safe haven for me. So I have a question. So for traveling on planes, I think from the customer experience, it's kind of commoditized. I think it's just traveling on a plane, going somewhere A to B, right? But I actually have a suggestion, which I think it could be a game changer, especially for millennials and Gen Zs and so on, which is the in-flight entertainment.
Yeah.
I download my Netflix, my YouTube videos, and my podcast on the plane, but I have to hold it like this, and I have to like listen to it and watch it with my loved one, right? Like it's kind of hard to do it.
Yeah.
How hard, and maybe it's a costly thing, right? To do mirroring with the screen in front, and this, if you can be the only one that does this, then I think it would drive a lot of people traveling on
Yeah,
Cathay.
good idea. Actually, I think in our new generation aircraft, we'll be having that sort of capability, wireless pairing. Currently, the pairing works for your headphone or earphone already on Bluetooth. The screen pairing is going to come, so you can use your phone and then project to the big screen quite soon. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Is there like a timeline?
I think in our new 777-9, I think that is the plan. Maybe in 2 years' time, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, Calvin.
Thank you very much, Ronald, for coming. And it's my honor to meet you in the escalator in which we just traveled together. So I'm Kelvin, and I'm a venture capital, in which one of my startups was in the Cathay Pacific hackathon some years ago, and they enjoy very much. But my question is not about startup. My question is about the competition with other airlines.
Sure.
Because my company mainly invests in European startups, and you know that there have been so many airlines, especially with the closer relationship between Hong Kong and Greater Bay Area, in which some people might even travel to Shenzhen to go to other places. And some other airlines are offering very, very discounted and attractive prices like Emirates, the Middle East, 中東三寶. So how do you see about the competition, especially for Cathay Pacific? Because a lot of my generations or my friends might think that the Cathay brand is a little bit old, sorry to say that, and they might prefer Emirates because they offer excellent services, and some might even prefer the mainland airlines in which they offer very, very cheap price, only 3,000 and back and forth to Europe. So how will you cope with the competition, and what might be your future strategy to handle this? Thank you.
Sure. Okay, for when it comes to passenger travel, I think we have to find our unique position that would distinguish ourselves from other airlines, right? And I would say there are a few dimensions. First of all, we have Cathay Pacific and we have HK Express. And the position is really, really clear. In the past, we have Cathay Dragon, which is quite hard to position it clearly. But now we only have Cathay Pacific and HK Express. The position is so clear that Cathay Pacific, we want to be the best premium airline of the world. So we want to be the best, exceeding Singapore Airlines, exceeding the Middle Eastern carriers. And we've been working hard on that. Now we are probably among the top 5 best premium airline of the world, according to many industry ranking. We are firmly in top 5, but we want to be the number 1 there. So I think the experience being premium matters. And then HK Express, we want to be a pure low-cost carrier, so we can offer the lowest price, basically, with basic services, with options to add on. I think that's the pure LCC model. So that for our customers, they can choose whatever they want, right? If you want a 5-star hotel service, you can choose this end. You want a Cha Chan Tan service, you can choose this end. So we can fulfill all our customers' needs with our spectrum. And also, all our competitors, hopefully, is somewhere in between. If we do it really, really well, right, we will occupy the two ends and then everything in between. And then any competitors, whether competitors in Hong Kong, elsewhere in the world, will be in the middle. That's number one. Number two is that being a base carrier in Hong Kong, we are really unique. And in fact, in our strategy, we have defined our unique position very explicitly nowadays. Is deep roots in Hong Kong, 80 years almost, and then proudly part of China, and then connecting the world, meaning that we are Hong Kong, and we know Chinese mainland better than anyone else, and then we are international. That speaks to everything, right? Our employee composition. If you look at the Chinese carriers, their senior management is Chinese mainlanders. If you look at foreign carriers, they are foreign, right? But for us, we have Hong Kong people, we have people with Chinese mainland background, we have Westerners in our top team. So we have a much more rounded view about Hong Kong, China, and international side. Our cabin crew is probably the most diverse cabin crew group in any airlines, with different nationality: Hong Kong, Chinese mainland, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia, India, you name it, right? It's very diverse. Our in-flight entertainment, which we are pretty famous for, by the way. We won the best in-flight entertainment last year, and then we came second in the whole world this year. So we are pretty famous for that. And why? Because we have the most attractive library with a lot of Hong Kong contents, Chinese mainland content, Taiwan contents, international content, Hollywood, Bollywood, everything, right? So we are so diverse, and our dining experience is the same. We make very good Chinese food, we make very good Western food, and all that. So I think our diversity, in other words, is actually our unique position, and we are trying to strengthen it so that we can compete well with the Chinese carrier, with the Middle Eastern carrier, with other carriers, by holding on to this unique position.
Good. And then?
Ronald, I'm Alan Siemens. People, just for everyone's information, but I've been on the airport for 7 years, airport authority for 7 years,
Yep.
and so I'm very familiar from the background from Third-Runway, from Cathay, and the problem with COVID. I was actually very involved in it, and
Sure.
especially with the government at the time. Carrie Lam was not a great help, but whatever. It's another story. Being the top airline, because it's a very competitive business from start to finish. Cathay has always represented Hong Kong, and that's the reason the government saved Cathay after COVID and put the money in, because it's our kind of national airline, even though it's a privately owned airline, but
Yep.
the government considers it to be national airline. There is a lot of competition out there right now from the Middle East, from other areas. One of the things, and I fly a lot, almost like a pilot, one of my suggestions is starting from beginning, from the moment you enter the airplane, even the service outside of the airplane, because it's frustrating for people. You're with a lot of people, a lot of crowds, and children and old people, young people, wheelchairs, all the other things. I would start from the experience as a passenger, if consider yourself a passenger, and then everything from the moment we get on to Cathay should be easy to get on. The seats should be very, very comfortable. almost spotless. I mean, because some configurations are different
Yeah,
and whatever.
yeah.
Really have something that
Yeah.
really works. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you're facing this way, sometimes
Sure.
you're facing that way, depending on the aircraft. But entertainment, as you rightly said, thinking out of the box. Even, great library and all that, but the screen that we're showing it on, bigger than other airlines. I want to be the best.
Sure. Yeah.
So bigger than other airlines, even being able to somehow connect with TV, with
Yes.
Now TV or
Yes.
online while you're flying or wherever it is. And also the food. Very, very, very important.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's very good, sometimes it's
Yes.
mediocre. I know sometimes you're with a restaurant chain, which is good, but I just think we should present it in a way that's different from the other airlines,
Yes.
even whether it's the container,
Agree.
whether it's the plates, whether
Yeah.
it's whatever it is,
Agree.
and do one extra than other
Yes.
airplanes.
Yeah.
I really think if we really had uniforms, always upgrading, fashion changes all the time. You got millennials,
Yeah.
you got young people, old people. I would really start at looking at every
Sure.
part, and then staff training, because I know you do have a broad group of different nationalities and cultures working for the airline. So, but it's really, really important. Everything we should have is first class. From
Yeah.
the blankets, from the pillows, from everything we do, a little bit extra than the other ones, because there are other airlines, that are trying to be better and better.
Yes.
And I really think complacency's got to think. I come out of the fashion business, and as you well know, and so for me, that's very, very important.
Okay.
And I really think if we do that, Cathay always had the top fame in the world, and then of course it sank down again, not before your time, not your fault. You brought it back a lot, but I just think we need that instill, that first class operation. Storytelling is okay, but there needs to be substance behind
course,
it.
yeah.
So that's why I say, even with the government, you can do the storytelling, but we have now Hong Kong's exciting,
Yeah.
so
Sure.
you can tell the story.
Sure. Absolutely, I agree entirely. And we're not there yet, definitely. And as I mentioned, we're among the top 5. We want to be number 1, but that last mile is not easy. But I always tell my team, we have to think like number 1 already, and then work backwards to see what else should we be doing. But I want to share a very practical challenge I face as a CEO of Cathay, is that on the one hand, we really want to be the best premium airline of the world. But on the other hand, I must acknowledge, we're also a mass transportation business.
Yes.
We have 100,000 passengers every day, right? And then we have planes going to different parts of the world in an environment we are not in full control. And the plane, right, the kitchen is so small, right? And you have to cook food for so many people. So to get everything right, the toilets are shared, right? So to get everything to a perfection is almost impossible, right? But how can we make things better and more consistent is always a constant challenge. So now the capacity part of the rebuild is now done. For 2025, actually, I agree with my team that the focus is exactly that. Let's zoom into every little detail, right? How can we make the toilet cleaner
Exactly.
by 10%, right? It's a big improvement.
That's how.
Yeah,
Just
so-
look at the top airlines, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, whoever it is,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And then see, okay, what do we have to do to be 5%, 10% better than the next
Exactly,
one?
exactly.
And then it goes throughout the whole thing, and suddenly you have a.
Exactly.
You're
It's
there.
like the Olympic athletes,
exactly.
right? So to get from number 5 to number 1, it's all those little,
Those little extra-
0.1 second,
Okay.
right? You need to,
No,
so-
you got it.
yeah.
Very
Thank you.
good. Let's take one last question. Make it brief because the time is up.
Mark Michelson, I chair a committee at the Chamber of America's committee, but chair a group of regional CEOs. So just a couple comments, really. I can ask a question too, but first of all, storytelling. I'm following up on Alan, and you mentioned it's very important, but it's very important to have the substance behind
course,
it.
yeah.
And you mentioned that. I'm not sure if the Hong Kong government is doing that as well as you are. So that's really important. In terms, you talked about the comparison with Singapore Airlines or others. what Singapore Airlines does is not whether their food is better or worse, but it's partly the service in the sense that it's personalized. Even if you're in economy class, you see a flight attendant 5 or 6 times during a trip to Singapore, back and forth, for example, and they actually ask about not only the food but everything else. And you know, at Cathay that happens sometimes, doesn't happen as often. So that's part of the experience. So even if the food isn't quite as good, you think it probably is, or the drink, or something else.
Sure.
And the only question I wanted to ask is, looking forward, what are the 1 or 2 challenges coming in? And AI being one of them. Is AI, you mentioned the positive aspects of it. Are there some other challenges associated with it, such as, for example, driverless cars? People can take 8 hours and have a car drive them. They might do that instead of flying short distances, for example.
Yeah, very good question. When we adopt data analytics and AI, for example, we actually have been talking a lot about taking a balance. How can we make sure the data is secure and the AI usage is secure while not suffocating the usage of them? In fact, yesterday I chaired a forum basically to look at all these risks. How can we unleash so that more people can get access to the data source? But how can we control it in a way that it would not be abused? How can we unleash the power of AI? I mentioned about Copilot. Some people were concerned, right? The Copilot might crawl too deep and find a lot of information it shouldn't find, right? So we just need to take a balance on the usage of data and AI. And it's a fine balance. But I always tell my team, right? The biggest risk is not data or AI going wrong. The bigger risk is that we are not able to use them. So that should trump the security risk. But we need to look at security. But I think not be able to use them will pose a bigger risk to our business for the future. So I try to constantly remind people it's a balance we have to take. Yeah.
Very good. With that, please join me to thank Ronald for this very insightful and powerful sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronald.
Buying movie tickets,
Economics.
going to
The
restaurants.
big question mark is the GBA going to do exactly the same thing?